Brian, and this is, of course, Jason Stoddard from SchiitR. And I'm wiping, you guys can't see me because I'm behind the camera, but I'm wiping a tear from my eye. A single tear is falling because this is one of the last live stream SchiitR meets from California. You might have read in the title, but I'm a little brokenhearted. Jason, how are you feeling in this moment?
It is the last one from California.
Yeah.
Eventually, we'll do some in Texas. Right now, that is a TBD as to where. It will be some place in San Antonio, probably on or near Riverwalk, but that's all I know at the moment. Tyler's been happily looking at buildings much larger than this, which is great and also not so great. So it's like a bit larger, yes, a lot larger, maybe not so great.
But we are going out with a big bang, you could say. We're dropping a big one, you could say. I'm gonna layer them on because it's the last show. No filter on me this time.
Do it.
We're dropping a big one, guys, right in the SchiitR. Huh? Okay, because we're doing a giant giveaway, and to participate in the giveaway, you need to leave a comment on YouTube or Facebook, and that will enter you in. And at the end of the live stream, we will then pick a winner from YouTube or Facebook, and you will be able to. What's the prize, Jason?
Anything you want, any single product that you want.
Any single SchiitR product you want, one item. So that's the giveaway, juicy one. And I think, though, on top of that, the other reason this is a big stream is because as long as we've been doing this, Jason definitely talks new product announcements, but we actually have 4 new product announcements this time. So it's the most ever, the biggest show ever, and a giveaway. So, Jason, if you just want to kind of maybe kick it off with product stuff.
It's actually a little less announcement, more preview. We kind of started with the phono preamp, the tube phono preamp I've been talking about, called Starna. And then I realized, well, we're pretty close on Gungnir 2, and we're pretty close on Wotan, and we're almost there on Gungnir. So I added 3 more products to what we're showing. The Starna is the very dangerous-looking non-chassis thing next to me right now, which is a all-tube preamp. Phono preamp. All of the gain is from tubes. There's no hidden sand in there. There's no extra transistors. The gain stage 100% tube. It'll go from 40 to 60 dB. So it will do moving coil and moving magnet cartridges. It does have some sand in it, but it's not hidden, as in it has discrete regulated main rails, and it has IC regulated heater rails. So mainly so we can shut them down. This thing has a shutdown, so you can actually, with the remote control that will be provided, you can go and actually kill the product. In other words, you can turn off the high volt rail, the low, and the heater rail. So it basically goes cold but ready to work, and that way you save some tubes and things like that. It's going to be in a Freya size case, and that'll probably hit, before the end of the year if we're real lucky, but we'll see. And we'll probably build a few of them, see if you guys like them, if you don't. Don't know. I mean, you never know. And that's time for a sip of the number 2 wine, which does not look promising. I hope this is not a Texan one. I have no idea what it is.
Well, if you remember, we've done a couple of these meets where you kind of have a Thunderdome-esque mentality. Like, you put it out there. If it goes, it goes. If it doesn't, it meets an untimely short death.
Yeah, and the development of it, we have a few guys in Corpus Christi that they're really into phono, and I gave them like all these protos, like kind of in order from like the Manny, the Skull, and this unnamed thing that we might do that's a super high performance solid state tube or solid state phono, and they they're like, this is great and this is better and this is best, and then I gave them the tube one and said, this thing's not as quiet as the other ones, the kind of measure's not as good, but it's tube. And they took it home and went, oh, yeah, you can just throw away all the other ones now. We don't need those. So from our internal votes and a few other external listeners, it seems to have gone over well. So what the heck? To make a few, let's see how it goes. And that's Starna.
Starna.
Yeah, maybe end of the year. We'll see. It has about 800,000 LEDs on the front of it. If you've seen a skull, it's like that, but a lot more. And it comes with remote control. I did mention that. So that's it.
And then maybe a new DAC.
Yes, Gungnir 2, which is, I think it's completely production metal, but it's not screen. It's completely production boards. So we're actually pretty close on that. That's going to introduce a whole lot of new stuff for people to chew on. One is what we've been calling high rate unison, or unison 384. Now unison will support bit depths and sample rates up to 32 bits, 384 kilohertz. It's everyone's going to go, well, why didn't you do 768? Why didn't you do 1.5? Why didn't you do this? It's like, because there's no music available in that. That's for upsampling. If you want to upsample, that's great. Have fun. Maybe this DAC is not for you. Though you can put it in NOS mode and you can do external upsampling. And you can compare those external upsamplers to our own proprietary digital filter and decide that you like ours better. Or vice versa. Though I personally don't think it's likely. What's the other thing? It has 2 USB inputs, which might surprise people. Why 2? Because you might have a streamer and a computer, a streamer and a tablet, a streamer and something else. There's a lot more USB inputs. Why don't more DACs have more than one USB input? I wonder. So, fairly minor thing. It is modular, as is Bifrost 2. So it actually takes an externally accessible card. It is also has an internal card that you can actually change out for the inputs, which we don't believe will change as much. But the externally accessible card is for analog. It is going to ship with what we call multiform, which is our extension of our true multi-bit technology. It's the first kind of analog trickery we've applied to that. It's kind of a new approach on the analog side that's kind of cross-coupled and fairly tricky, but it does use similar DACs to our other products. And in fact, it uses the 8812s that are used in other products. Price-wise, don't know where that's going to come in yet. It'll be less than an Yggdrasil, that's for sure. It'll stack really nice on a Freya or a Kara. And I think it's a really, really neat DAC as far as extending our modularity. This is fully upgradable and also kind of extending the footprint of a Bifrost. It has all the upgrades you'd expect of an upgraded Bifrost. With, 2 transformers, 1 for analog, 1 for digital, additional regulation. A bunch of neat stuff. But that is here. It is working. We're running Unison 384 right now. It seems to be working fine. Cross your fingers.
Nothing on fire yet.
Nothing on fire yet.
But if something was to catch on fire, I'm guessing it might be the next item up for intro. There's a new...
The thing you can't see, you'll probably have to zoom in on it later. It is if you know what a tier looks like, our big monoblock power amp, imagine 1 of those instead of 2. So it is a high power stereo amplifier in a tier size chassis with a bunch of new tricks. Again, you'll start getting used to hearing this bunch of new tricks. By high power, tentatively rated, 200, 250 watts per channel times 2 into 8 ohms, 400, 500 into 4. It's a big boy. It actually uses 2 tier transformers, so it does weigh the same as a tier. It's like about 55 pounds. New stuff. It is our first amp with fans. I know everyone's going to go, oh no, it's fans. fans are horrible, they make noise and things like that. Well, no, actually, they're off right now, and that's how they usually run. It's typically off until it needs it, and then it'll start, very gradually and ramp up. It's microprocessor controlled like everything else here. So that's great. It actually allows us to really, be able to drive very low impedance loads without any trouble at all. The other thing is this has switchable front panel inputs, so you can run both single-ended and balanced into this and switch between it, with the front panel. It's got our standard front panel standby, so it's essentially an on-off switch, but it keeps it still kind of trickling alive. And the big thing is this actually has switchable overall feedback, so you can turn off the overall feedback. So it has a nested feedback approach. It's only about 30 dB total, but you can turn off about the 10 dB of what you get from the final output stage, which causes some fairly radical differences in how it sounds. I know Brian was interested in hearing what that's going to sound like a bit later, but we were playing with that. We're running it with some magnaplaners, and that's doing well. We've had some running in Corpus for a while, and they seem to be, they're acting shockingly normal, which is nice. Prototypes sometimes have a tendency to do horrible things, and in fact, the early iterations of this that were going to be bridgeable, this is not bridgeable, this is a differential amplifier. The early bridgeable version did not work well, like to the point of scaring small children.
So it can be run balanced inputs, you were saying earlier, single-ended inputs, and it is definitely a stereo setup in this one, in one case, instead of the other one tier, which is traditionally the mono setup. Yeah. So one case, 2 channels, 250 watts, right?
Yep. Yeah. 250. We've had a lot of, I don't know that we can hit the 500 on the 4. It might hit like 400. So I'm like maybe 200 and 400, or the comedy option, of course, of 210 and 420, just because. Just cause.
No worries, random number, totally random.
But hey, we're leaving California. Can we use 420? I don't know.
And then, you were absolutely right. I was commenting earlier about how adjusting the feedback is not a thing found typically on an amp, if ever. So I'm just really interested in hearing that myself, to see that A/B comparison, because it's a rare thing to find, or ever. I've never seen it before.
Yeah, no, it is interesting, and I was shocked at some of the differences. Some of them you would expect, on speakers that need more, bass control and damping, you want the feedback on, but on magnaplaners, it's like, wow, I kind of like it without the feedback. So.
And then that was 3. We got 4 total. The last one,
I should have brought it in so I could put it in my hand. It's called Gungnir, not Gungnir, but Gungnir. Of course, we're introducing or previewing Gungnir and Gungnir at the same time because we are stupid. But Gungnir is the replacement for Hell. Gungnir is a much more advanced Hell. It actually allows you to either run it with one single USB or with an external linear power supply for a lot more power and a lot more capability. So it's easier to carry around, produces a lot more power when you're using the external power supply. But the big trick it has is it has the width and presence controls from SIN integrated onto it. So actually, for a gaming device, it's fantastic. You can actually bring up the presence, you can hear footsteps much more clearly, you can increase width, you can actually hear dimensionally a lot more. And this is just pure analog stuff, works with any source. You could use it with games, you can use it with music, use whatever. But it's by far the highest power device that we've done for gaming and in this form factor. And it should be priced just a little bit more than Hell, not a lot, maybe $219, $229. I don't know if we've decided yet. But that will replace Hell. Hell will be sunsetted. And that's all the stuff we have here. I know people have been listening to Gungnir, and we were listening to the whole rest of the stack earlier, Starna, Wotan, and Gungnir too. So, if you're not here and you can come on by. We're here till 10. You can have a listen to it.
Okay. Mm-hmm. Well, we're wrapping up right now, so if you want to.
Okay.
Well, we're wrapping up the product.
Right, we're
Wrapping
finishing the
up
product
products,
section,
okay.
so yeah.
So
What?
Jason, are you ready to pick the winner
Winner?
of tonight's giveaway?
No, that would
No, we gotta get, we're not quite there yet.
You're
Yeah,
not
we,
quite there
we've
yet?
been, yeah.
Well, I think we should take a couple. We
Okay.
went through the products.
Yeah.
There's a couple of like good questions in here, I think, that will
Yeah.
stimulate a little more conversation.
Okay.
And then I just wanted to take this moment too to reiterate the people that joined us
Okay.
that we are doing a giveaway, and you're going. If you just need to enter, you need to comment, ask a great question, and we'd love that. Facebook or YouTube, and then we're gonna draw a number and get the giveaway out to one of you guys. And I wanted to just touch on a question that I saw. We're scrolling really fast right now, but one of the questions was, did I hear correctly that SchiitR is moving to Texas or out of California? Can you just elaborate a little bit on the move, I think?
Yeah, that's probably probably a little bit of history should be in order. We are moving the rest of our operations out of California. As of actually early October, we should be 100% in Texas. We've been about 50% in Texas since 2020, where we actually bought a facility in Corpus Christi and moved the production of the smaller products like Magni and Gungnir, and actually, the Sagatu, etc., down to Corpus Christi, and that's done very well. Now we've bought a building in San Antonio. San Antonio, we're moving the rest of Valencia operations to, and now we'll probably hear some people complaining about how we're evil people for moving out of California and forsaking our employees and stuff like that. Here's the thing: every California employee was offered to keep their job and to move at the same salary and have assistance in moving if they came to Texas, if they wanted to. We understand why people don't. I mean, if your family's here, you're not going to move. But they had that chance. They also got 8 months of warning. They also have a very, very generous severance package for the ones who are staying here. So bottom line is, this is a crazy year because we're closing down here, opening up there, hiring there, retaining some here, figuring out who's going from Corpus to San Antonio and vice versa, looking for another SchiitR location. I'm selling my house here in California. It's sold, and actually building a place up north of San Antonio. And in about a month or two, we will have probably the largest announcement ever from the company, which has nothing to do with any single product. It's all good. We're not getting acquired. We're not going to start making stuff in Mexico or China. It's all good. It's a kind of a new idea that I think everyone will be pretty excited about, and it will affect a lot of both the new and old products. I will say that. So given all that, it's been a busy year, and so if I sound a little stressed and crazy, that's why. But we are moving, and we are closing down California operations.
And someone did ask about, and I don't think you mentioned this, about visiting you in Texas. Mm-hmm. I don't know how preliminary you guys are with this, but will you have another retail-like establishment that you're looking to do in Texas?
Absolutely. We will have a establishment very much like this, probably somewhere near Riverwalk in San Antonio. That's where we have been looking, which is a really interesting area. And I'd actually really like to have something there, something a little bigger, and maybe even don't gasp too much. Actually, maybe stock a couple headphone brands. We'll see. Who knows? But there will be a place that you can come. There will be a place that we can have events, and for everyone who thinks we're completely evil for leaving California, consider this: our primary and actually only maker of chassis, metal chassis, is in California and will remain in California, where they will continue to struggle to get their permit to do powder coating, but they will remain here. So we are going to be buying parts from California companies. And in fact, one of our PC board assembly houses will also remain here in California. So there's this nice interstate trade going on, and it's never as simple as you might think. You know, leaving one place for another, you know, doesn't mean we don't love it. You know, California has had some fantastic times. It's just become, well, a lot more difficult to do business here, and also the guys who are married know this is the real determining factor. Is my wife said, "I love Texas. Let's move everything here," and I'm not joking. She actually did cast kind of the deciding vote of get off your butt and make a decision. We can't be flying back and forth all the time. So we'll be driving back and forth between Corpus Christi and San Antonio. Maybe a better trade, maybe not, we'll see.
Someone asked, are you ever going to make an integrated tube amp? I'm assuming that person's talking about like a 2-channel tube amp.
No, not integrated. I might take another stab at an integrated. Ragnarok, we're currently closing out. So if anyone wants a heck of a deal on an integrated, we have one. If I do another Ragnarok, it will probably be a lot more powerful, a lot more capable, and a lot more expensive, not to put too fine a point on it. Because if you're going to do an integrated, you probably want it not to be compromised in any particular area. That starts driving it up into, you know, the cost of separates. And so we decided for now to concentrate on separates.
Is there one particular product? Now let's be nostalgic for a second, right? We're looking back. You've been here. It's been a big run. Is there one particular product that since you've been here that you found was either the most challenging or something that brought you the most pride? And don't say like the very newest thing. Like let's talk like historical. Something that you thought either was the hardest to produce or something that was the most thing. What sticks out to you of all the products that you've made as like a landmark?
Really, the landmark. There's probably 3 landmarks, but let's you know choose. I'll be fair. I'll choose one, which is actually the original Asgard,
Really?
Because it was just such a departure from what was out there, you know, which at the time was either very expensive and very, you know, low production, or not, you know, not up to commercial standard, not at commercial standard. And so this was the first kind of somewhat affordable headphone amp that kind of took a shot at, hey, here's this cost no object approach, but it's still $250. So I'm very proud of that. I do not want to make them again. I know people have floated this idea of like, hey, let's do a 15th anniversary Asgard. Yeah. To which I say, if it's exactly the same product, you get to build all of them because they were not all that much fun to build. We've gotten much better at what we do. There's that one, and if I had to choose 2 more, it'd be the original Magni, which was, you know, $99 headphone amp from USA, is insane, and then also the original Jotunheim, you know, modular. Balanced, you know, high measuring, affordable, you know, also made in USA. We did one of our first actually SchiitR shows for that. In fact, it was the first, wasn't it? Yeah.
Sure.
And we're going to start doing those again. We definitely need to do one for the new idea.
In terms of the SchiitR events itself, I've sat here with you on the couch and listened to a bunch of different blind A/B tests. If you think collectively in your mind of your experience across all those, what do you think is the biggest learning or thing you discovered during those blind A/B tests that we did?
It might have been today, and like A being the feedback, but before that, it actually would have been the time that we decided, oh, we're going to do blind testing of like the 2 new Magnis. We had like a discrete Magni and we had an IC Magni. And I'm like, oh, we're going to make it fun. We're going to throw in a Veli. And Veli is a tube amp, measures horribly. And so we're taking these 2 high measuring solid state amps, and then we have, you know, this very bad measure. I mean, it's bad, like 10,000 times more distortion, bad, horrible tube amp. So it should be easy, you know, just easy to pick that one out, and then you can start arguing about the solid state. And we put the selector, you know, in, and this allowed you to choose your music, choose your volume, and then you could just change it, and you wouldn't know what you're listening to. And I chose my music, chose my volume, and then I switched back and forth, and I'm like, Well, so this doesn't work. It's all shorted together, you know, because they're all the same. And the guy who set it up, David's like, he just started laughing. He's like, no, it's working. And I'm like, wait a minute, there's a Bailey in there? And I went back through slower, and I'm like, oh boy, this is a lot harder than I thought. So eventually I got them all right, but it took a while. So the differences that people, you know, talk about, whether it's, you know, the difference between 0.0001 and 0.0012, or in this case, the difference between like 0.5 and 0.0001, you know, sometimes the differences are exaggerated. And you do need to listen. You do need to listen for yourself and decide, you know, if that's for you or not, because some people hear it, some people don't. And apparently, I don't hear everything, and that's why we have lots of people working for us that also listen to it.
I think one of my takeaways from the experience was how much taste kind of really it was just hammered home with our consensus. When you asked people what they liked, what their favorite was,
All over the map.
it was all over the map. And in me too experiencing this, I was like, dude, this one sounds clear winner to me. But it was never ever really a consensus. I mean, it was, people had thoughts that mirrored each other, but there was not like, never really one was like, this one is terrible, this one is amazing. These type of really like far-reaching answers. Always just like a nice. Everybody seemed happy with a lot of different choices.
Yeah, and it really does come down to that. That was like with the Iggy's. I think I was the only person who liked more is less, and it really comes down to personal preference. It comes down to the experience, and that's why I really hate it when it's like, here's the greatest thing. The greatest thing for who? You know, in your system. In their system? In anyone's system? Yeah, I don't know. So, if you can, listen and decide for yourself, because there, like you said, there's no consensus.
Yeah, I do think that there, and don't get me wrong here, I do think there is a threshold where like, oh, this is really fuzzy, or the resolution is better. But I think once minimum thresholds are met, a lot of times just the cream on the top is preference. It's like, oh, a little bit more here, a little less there, and people, it makes them happy in different ways, you know. But yeah, I do think there's a threshold where, well, man, this is definitely not right. Don't get me wrong, that does happen, but it has not happened at the shows here, because everything has been like very tasty. You know, how much salt do you like? Just a little. Yeah. How much shit do you like?
Exactly. Yeah. Do you like it rare or mid-rare?
Yeah. Someone asked, "What's the best tomato sauce?" I have no idea.
I don't know.
I don't know anything about that.
Yeah, you know why I don't know? Because I make my own. Huh.
Your citizen.
Well, we make so many things. I mean, we make our own bread and stuff. It's like, you know, whenever we were changing houses from here to Texas, the first thing is like, oh, I got to make the bread, I got to make the sauce, I got to do this. It's like, yeah, and you got to make salad dressing. And Lisa looked at me once and she's like, are we weird? I'm like, yeah, of course we're weird, but it's what we choose to do.
Someone's asking here, would you ever consider making a SchiitR guitar amp, a tube guitar amp?
Actually, Will has asked me for that. I don't think we know enough about it, honestly. I don't know what the specific requirements are. So kind of to wander into, you know, a industry that has, you know, companies with long and respected histories, I think that's a big ask. I wouldn't say no, but I don't think you're going to see it next year, or maybe probably not even in 10 years.
Sounds like a negative to me. But what about, let's see here. You guys go ahead and ask some more questions if you want. Again, if you'd like to be registered for the giveaway, all you have to do is comment on YouTube or Facebook. I think we're going to go ahead and say we're going to draw here in a few minutes. So get your comments in if you haven't yet. And then we will draw from the list here. And make sure you guys comment if you want to be...
And I'm sure that we can come up with something to talk about, you know, in the meantime.
We got 5 minutes to come up with something great. Someone did ask, when you do the ABs and the wine, do you have a drink of preference? I know we talked about Texas wine quite a bit on the previous streams.
If we're doing ABs for real, I prefer to drink nothing, because it actually does make it a lot harder to tell the difference between things. No, I mean, the best mod for your system is probably wine or scotch or beer, or, you know, whatever you prefer. Or if you don't drink, fine, whatever. But no, I tend to not do that, during the ABs. Right now, yeah, I'm having a glass of wine because what the heck, I do enjoy wine. I do enjoy Texas and California wine, and I know we asked a bunch of people, and we asked everyone, it's like, hey, if you bring some wines from other places, and we didn't specify what others, so I don't know if we're getting, Canada, France, Long Island, New Mexico, Arizona, Oregon, Washington, all of which produce wine, and probably every other state too that I didn't mention, in every other country. I actually had a good Israeli wine 10 years ago. And I'm like, well, you have wine? It's like, well, of course. Anyway, that can come from anywhere. So we're actually having a separate prize for the non-Texas, non-California wine that's the best. And we'll see what happens.
Someone asked if you'd ever consider getting into cables.
We do have cables. We make the pissed cables, which are just a limited batch of. We actually do 1 meter, 2 meter, and the little shorty cables for the headphone stacks. I don't believe we do speaker cables right now. If you're talking about speakers, bug snake oil cables, and tell them to actually lobby us to do it. I'm not opposed to doing it, but I don't ascribe any specialness to cables. So, if we did it, it'd be durable and it'd work well.
Any favorite Texas beers?
Oh boy, there's lots of Texas beers. I'm particularly fond of a small place just north of San Antonio called Vista Brewing. They're tiny, but they have their own farm. They have like a farm-to-table restaurant and a brewery, and they've kind of consistently produced a bunch of very interesting, and not interesting bad, but interesting types of beer. I still think the California beer game is stronger. I know I'm going to get probably eviscerated by our Texas friends for that, because I do like Shadow Grove here in California. I do like Ojai Valley Brewing. I do like Brew Lab. I can name a number of breweries doing some very interesting things. Texas, I probably haven't been around as much. So hey, tell Denise places I need to go in Texas, and eventually I'll get there. Right now, boy, I can't promise anything before the end of the year. We just kind of, got to get through this year, and then we'll see what happens.
From your experience, is there any specific spec or design element for amplifiers that helps determine how wide the soundstage is?
Blah.
That's a big question.
Yeah, that's a good question. It's always hard to correlate, subjective to either, well, in this case, it's not objective measure, but essentially design technique. In general, I do believe that what you'd expect to correlate doesn't, like crosstalk. I don't think that correlates at all. Some of the best soundstage I've heard is from, phono systems that have maybe 25 dB of crosstalk separation, maybe on a good day, maybe 35. It's a really good, really good system. But I think what probably does correlate really is feedback and then precision of the parts used in either any kind of feedback or filtering. Especially if it's RIAA, you cannot go too precise on actually matching everything. And if you're in an amp, it's actually fairly amazing what you need to do in terms of like not 1%, but 0.1%, and then multiple parallel devices to make sure that heating doesn't actually end up being an effect. So those are the things that are most strongly correlated, and it's still, it's, I couldn't write a prescription for it, but those are the things I found over the past few years.
Will the Gungnir 2 be at CanJam?
The SoCal? Yeah, sure. And it'll actually even have a screen on it. So, it'll not a display screen, but it'll have a silk screen on it saying what it is, unlike this one, which is just kind of incognito at the moment.
I like that. Sure, why not? Any other requests?
I don't see why not. It runs pretty warm, so you may wanna if you're going to stick a Mjolnir 3 on top of it, you may want to use some tall feet or something.
How about this one? I don't know if we're gonna get a Shure on this one. Any thoughts on a Shure A to D, or I'm sorry, ADC?
Yeah.
For us pros who would like a full multi-bit chain for recording, mixing, or mastering, would you ever go the other direction?
We've thought about that, and in fact, we've done some design work on it. It's not as crazy as you might think, because arguably, the ADCs that we have for multi-bit applications are probably more well developed than the D to A's. Seems like people are much more happy about spending $70 on an ADC than $70 on a DAC, especially when you tell them you got to use 4 of them. But that is something we've looked at. I wouldn't be a bit surprised if we tried it as like one of those, like the Starna thing. We'll see how it goes. Our problem is we don't have any real inroads or we have limited inroads into the pro market. So if we do, we may be coming back to people like the guy who asked the question for help on, how do we get these into people's hands, and what would they pay for it, and is it worth it, and what kind of special care and feeding, like external clocks and stuff, that they need, because we don't know any of that.
When I think about all the questions, last couple of years we've done this, and I think
Every time I get kind of either way and make it more, is that then we'd have to bring all the precision machining in-house. So it's an investment. Right now we're considering first, and then
was